Zulu. What a load of bollocks. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Now, you might be wondering what's irked the ultra. I'll get to that in a moment. Zulu is a 1964 film, and it's one of my favourites. There'll be those of you listening who are familiar with it. It tends to make an appearance every Christmas in the United Kingdom, but that's not enough for viewing for my liking. I have, of course, my DVD copy of it, and there's a tradition with certain of my friends that after a night out, when we come back, suitably served with the finest wines known to humanity, that we settle back and watch Zulu, much of which the dialogue we can trot off by heart. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, bear with me and enjoy some historical education. Zulu's a 1964 British epic war film depicting the Battle of Rorke's Drift between the British Army and the Zulus from January 1879 during the Anglo-Zulu War. It shows how 150 British soldiers, 30 of whom were sick and wounded patients in a field hospital, successfully held off a force of 4,000 Zulu warriors. The successful British defence of the mission station of Rorke's Drift under the command of Lieutenant John Chard of the Royal Engineers and Gonville Bromhead, 24th Regiment of Foot, began when a large contingent of Zulu warriors broke off from their main force during the final hours of the British defeat at the day-long Battle of Isandlwana on the 22nd of January 1879, diverting 6 miles to attack Rorke's Drift later that day and continuing into the following day. This battle was caught in this film, and it is a masterpiece. The film was directed by American screenwriter Cy Enfield and was produced by Stanley Baker, who also stars in the film. The screenplay was by Enfield and historical writer John Preble, based upon Preble's 1958 Lilliput article Slaughter in the Sun. The film stars Baker and introduces Michael Kaine, many of which you'll be familiar with. My name is Michael Kaine. Not a lot of people know that. In his first major role, with a supporting cast that includes Jack Hawkins, Ulla Jacobson, James Booth, Nigel Green, Paul Danneman, Glyn Edwards, Ivor Emmanuel, and Patrick McGee. Zulu chief and future South African political leader Buthelezi played Zulu King Kampande, his great-grandfather. The opening and closing narration is spoken by the magnificent Richard Burton. The film was first shown on the 85th anniversary of the actual battle on the 22nd of January 1964 at the Plaza Theatre in the West End of London. In 2017, a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers and critics for Time Out magazine ranked it the 93rd best British film ever. Should be far higher. Basically, it's a defence against the odds, and it shows the bravery of both sides' warriors and also the way that they acknowledged, in effect, that bravery. It shows a fantastic part where the Zulus approach to within several hundred yards of the mission station, and they sing a lament before launching into their war chant, and the British then respond by singing the Welsh song, Men of Harlech. In the final assault, it seems that the Zulus will overwhelm the tired defenders, but what happens is that the British soldiers fall back to a small redoubt in front of the chapel, and then with a reserve of men hidden within the redoubt, they form into 3 ranks and fire volley after volley, exhibiting their superior training, inflicting heavy casualties. The Zulus retreat. After a pause of 3 hours, the Zulus reform, and the British think that there's going to be another assault, but instead the Zulus sing a song to honour the bravery of the defenders before departing. 11 defenders at Rorke's Drift received the Victoria Cross for its defence, the most ever awarded for a single action. It's a brilliant film, really good to watch, fantastic acting. My favourite part is where there's a Swiss gentleman who's got his He's on crutches, and he's so keen to fight that he comes out and he gets his bandage tangled up and he shoots a Zulu, and then he hits one with his crutch, and he goes over to assist John Chard, played by Stanley Baker, who has been wounded, as the battle rages around them. It shows the bravery of those that are involved. And I think, as I've mentioned previously, it shows the excitement that existed for those individuals to be taken from Great Britain and travel thousands of miles to an alien country, as it were, but to become involved in such engaging and exciting action. Certainly beats wandering down to McDonald's at the weekend and throwing gherkins around. Now, giving you that context, etc., what is it that's irked the ultra? Well, what has occurred is that, as reported in the Times by George Sanderman, Sir Michael Kaine rejects claim that Zulu incites far-right extremism. Sir Michael Kaine has labelled the inclusion of his 1964 film Zulu on a list of cultural works that could incite the far right as the biggest load of bullshit he has ever heard. Hear, hear, Sir Michael, well said. The movie features Kaine as a young officer, Lieutenant Gonville Bromhead, in the Battle of Rorke's Drift during the Anglo-Zulu War in 1879. Last month, a review of the counter-terrorism programme Prevent found that several known works, including Zulu, were cited as key texts for white nationalists, supremacists. Other works cited in the report by Prevent's Research Information and Communications Unit were the political sitcoms Yes Minister and The Thick of It, the war film The Dambusters, and get this, the complete works of Shakespeare. Well, there must be some fucking well-educated fascists out there that apparently are being weaponized and radicalized by the complete works of Shakespeare. What are they going to be doing? Reciting Hamlet's soliloquy while kicking in somebody's head? What utter fucking tosh. Now, not only am I offended by this because it includes a film that is one of my favourites, it also includes two television programmes that I'm rather keen on as well, Yes Minister and The Thick of It. Yes Minister is absolutely brilliantly written and shows the conflict between the civil service and MPs and the government. Very, very well observed. I have the set of books and the television series, which had Nigel Hawthorne in, was absolutely brilliant. The Thick of It also absolute piss take and shows the way that government and the civil service, again in a different way, function. Hilarious, with the memorable creation of Malcolm Tucker as an overly aggressive spin doctor played by Peter Capaldi. To suggest that those programmes are somehow inciting people to become right-wing extremists is ridiculous, and furthermore, to place that allegation as against Zulu is utterly preposterous. And it causes you to have to wonder, who the fuck is involved in these ridiculous programmes? Once again, it's quite clear that the enjoyment and these programmes threatens the sense of control of certain individuals, so that they engage in this ridiculous censorship. As you know from other videos, I've railed against this with regard to tampering with the works of Roald Dahl. I also understand as well, I think there's a series called Goosebumps, which is a very successful children's book. Not one that I have accessed, but I read about it as I was having my breakfast, as I was perusing the news, that has been tampered with also. And again, a programme that's meant to prevent extremism but seems to rather fail, and might do well to ask itself, what has it been doing, for instance, to prevent the terrorist attack that took place at the Manchester Arena, rather than wanking over the opportunity to suggest that Zulu radicalises people. This is representative of a particular section of society that once again believes that it's perfectly entitled to prescribe to you and I what we are allowed to watch and read and what we should not be watching and reading. There should be freedom of choice in that regard, and people should be allowed to make their own minds up. Zulu is a brilliant film. Not only does it look as if it was filmed yesterday, but it captures the nature of that defence of Rorke's Drift in a compelling and engaging manner. And it has fantastic performances, not only from Baker and Kaine, but from a host of other actors involved also. And once again, this attempt to tell people to censor what they can watch and what they can read is representative of an alarming shift in society, and of course one which is predicated by certain of my kind who feel threatened by these things and feel that they are in a position to prescribe to people what they should do, and therefore start this kind of activity. Undoubtedly, within Prevent, there'll be one or two mid-range narcissists that believe that, oh, you can't watch this because I decree that it is something that's going to radicalize people. And so Michael Kaine had it entirely right when he said it's the biggest load of bullshit. But once again, I bring this to your attention to ensure that you recognize that there are certain of my kind that are engaging in this behavior, which then is picked up by others emulating them. And it is an attack upon your freedoms, the freedom of your thoughts, the freedom of your intelligence, the freedom of your choice, and the freedom of your expression. And you would do well to be aware of this and take the representative steps to reject it. Now, I'm off to watch Zulu. Who's with me?